Well, I will. We're not starting off good. Damn. I should have had a drink of coffee before I hit the go live button. I am fucking up left and right today. It started off this morning. First thing, um, I had a whole bunch of gigs coming through via email and text message and Facebook and whatnot. Hey, Kevin, what's up? Brad Feingold's checking in. Holy shit. From back in my Adventureland days, doing the Wild West show out there. What's up, dude? My favorite Jew. Dave Johnson's here, man. Good to talk. Good to see you, dude. We need to talk soon. Hit the share button, guys. If you're so inclined, hit the share button and let's spread the word. I've got comedian Steve Sabo, the caffeinated voice of reason, is going to be coming on today. And I brewed myself a fresh pot of coffee just so I can keep up. Happy birthday, Dave. Right on, dude. I'll give you a like on that. Hit me up with some likes or some loves or some laughs if you're so inclined. This Friday night, actually, let me plug Steve. He's going to be coming on here in just a second, theoretically. I did tell him this morning. I sent him a reminder. Steve, you got to call in. 4:20 p.m. Eastern. It's always 4:20 somewhere, but we do the 4:20 report every day, 4:20 p.m. Eastern, or as close as possible. And then on the weekends, I do From the Green Room, live on the road from all of the different nightclubs, taverns, and neighborhood bars that I travel to nationwide. And you get to experience what it's really like doing stand-up. Oh, here's Steve right now. Steve Sabo!
What's up, man?
How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. How are you?
Good, good. I'm already live on Facebook. I went live right at 4:20 p.m.
I know you did. You went fast. It hit my that went on, and then my alarm went off, and it's like, ooh, I got a lot of going on at the same time. I better give you a call.
Right on, dude. Right on. Guys, Steve will be heading up the Grassroots Comedy Tour this Friday, December 7th at Uptown Bar and Cafe in Crystal, Michigan, where it has been known all hell will break loose sometimes in that audience. It can be quite chaotic. Have you ever played up there before?
You know, it's funny that you're saying that, because I was trying to think of that myself, if I've ever played it before. And the name doesn't sound overly familiar, but the city does. So I may have played it. You had it for a few years?
Yeah, it's been going strong now for 3 or 4 years, I think.
So I may have done it like a few years ago, but I know it hasn't been in a little while. But I feel like I've played in that city before, but if so, it's been a little while. So I love chaotic rooms, so that should be fun.
Stacy, Gail, Jason, Brian McGrew's here. John, what's up, John? I was just about to plug my appearance coming up this Saturday at the Eagles Club there in Gaithersburg, Maryland. I'm going all the way across country. I got LaPorte, Indiana on Wednesday. I've got Clyde, Ohio on Thursday. I've got Friday night off. I don't know what I'll be doing. Maybe hit up a comedy club, do a guest set somewhere. Maybe I'll go up to Michigan. Maybe I'll do that.
Good.
I'll see what that distance is. Maybe I'll come up just to work with you. I like working with other comedians. Somebody told me recently, they go, JerDog, why do you bring other comedians on the 420 report? You should never share the spotlight. I think that's bullshit. I like working with other comedians. You know what I mean? Especially good ones like you.
Yeah, I like I could always go up and do the shows by myself, but I always bring an opening act. I always think it's better to give the audience some variety, and then it's also just a good vibe to hang with another comedian and just get the feel for everybody and give everybody something else, something more, something new, and you kind of, I think you grow from watching other comedians too, even if the comedians that are younger in the business than you. So yeah, I love it.
Yeah, there's something to learn from everybody for sure, but I also like the chemistry between comedians when you see them on stage together. Like there's this new Netflix special that I've been pining about with Dave Attell and Jeffrey Ross called Bumping Mics, where they're going back and forth together on stage, riffing with the crowd, sometimes going into solo material, going in and out of it, helping each other with taglines, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just something you don't see that much these days, but it used to be something that was pretty common, the comedy team.
Yeah, that's true. Like, that's that kind of, gosh, the last time I really saw a comedy team was like in the early 80s, really, honestly. It's been a while.
Yeah, there's those twin brothers, the Sklar brothers.
Oh, yeah, those guys. Yep, that's true. That's true. And they're good.
Katrina Brown and I, we team up at the end of our show and we do the comedy battle of the sexes, and we take questions and comments from the crowd and then make up material on the fly that way. And we sort of do the same thing where we riff with the crowd, make up things on the spot, and lead each other in and out of punchlines. I love sharing the spotlight. You know, I think really that's what grassroots comedy was all about. People like the interaction and they like something new. And you bring a lot of comedy to small towns all over the country. And I get your emails and you're always on there. We want fresh faces, fresh faces. I think that's what people want the most. They just want different shit.
Yeah, I think especially when you're doing shows in the smaller towns where they might only have, you know, they might do 4 shows a year, they might do 6 shows a year. At most, they might do 10 shows a year. And if you keep bringing back the exact same comics every single time, then, you know, it's a small town. Everybody comes to those shows and everybody has seen them. So unless you've written a whole bunch of, you know, brand new material, you know, you kind of gotta mix it up, get new people.
Right. Is that what inspired you to write a lot of new material? You've put out something like 10 comedy albums.
Well, I've got 6. But,
6. There you go.
Yeah. You know what it is? It's not even just that. It's partly that, but I love the writing part. I like the creating new stuff.
Yeah.
It's the part where you're walking on a tightrope and you don't know if it's going to work. That's the thrill I really get out of comedy more than anything else, is when you're trying to joke out for the very first time and you kind of get your heart beating. If you've done a joke 100 times, you know it's going to work every single time. And if it doesn't work, you're almost confused by it. You're like, huh, that's weird.
Right. You start blaming the crowd. I'll do that. Like, well, these assholes, that one works every time. Weren't they there last week in Cleveland when they saw me crush with that fucking thing? Come on.
Right, that joke's on you, man. I did it
totally
right. You guys did it wrong. You guys didn't laugh at it. But when you're writing brand new stuff, you know, it's like, oh, I have no idea if it's going to work. I have no idea. And that's why I like to do a lot of audience interaction too, is because, you know, I think being on the fly, you know, really, you know, keeps you fresh and keeps your comedy chops going, because you know, you got to make it funny. I mean, obviously, you know, the good part is that when you're good at improv and you've got a lot of material, and I have over 6 hours of material. If improv's not working, I can go right back into material at any moment. So
pull something out of the grab bag from the past.
Yeah,
the vault.
Yeah.
I pull a lot of stuff out of old notebooks. I might be hung up on a premise, or I've got something that's starting out pretty good, but there's just no finish to it. And then I will be maybe flipping through an old notebook and I'll find the perfect line that I wrote 7 years ago that had no place, but now somehow fits the puzzle perfectly with this new bit that I came up with. Do you ever have anything like that? Or
absolutely.
You know, it's just a recall.
That's the craziest thing. I'm not as organized as that. I just have stacks of bar napkins and scraps of paper and bits of newspaper that have words or a phrase on it, and then I'll flip through it once. I go, that's so funny. Why didn't I ever make anything from that? And then sometimes you can piece it with something that you have, or create something. Then sometimes you just don't have it. You know, your brain isn't working right at that moment for that bit, but then, you know, years later it comes right to you. Right.
Yeah, it's like a magical little thing. Sometimes it's just like you're not ready for the joke that you originally came up with, and that's why it fell flat. And so I'll scrap that stuff, but then later on I'll recall it, and it's like, oh, there's something now about it that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sometimes it's because you're a better comic years later, or maybe, you know, who knows? There's a million reasons, but.
Brad Feingold, a friend of mine, we used to do Comedy Wild West shows together back in amusement parks. I mean, I was in my early 20s and doing these as a summertime gig. And he wrote a comment while we were talking earlier. Aren't you worried other comedians are funnier than you? And and this isn't to sound cocky, but I've never been worried that other comedians are funnier than me, not because I necessarily think that I'm the funniest guy in the room, but because I don't feel like I have to be the funniest guy in the room.
Sure.
You know?
Well, I always think it's funny. I did a show. This is a funny story, but this happened a couple of weeks ago. I did a show, and my opening act went up, and he struggled a little bit, and you'll know why in a second. And but then this girl comes up to me, and she's standing right next to me and him, and she walks up to me and she goes, "I thought he was funnier," pointing to the other guy. She goes, "You need more racist stuff in your act." And I'm like, hey, if that's what works for you, then great. But I know that not everything's, not everybody's going to like me more than somebody else, and I'm going to like somebody else better than me.
Right.
Comedy is one of those things that's so subjective, that it just, it's crazy. To me, it's just crazy when people try to rank them. Like, comedy contests are so absurd, It's just, comedy's different for everyone.
I mean, yeah, and it really bothers me when they take it so competitively that it makes it not fun anymore. So a lot of these comedy contests that you bring up, they will be judged based off of the audience reaction. And you might have a guy that went up there and just absolutely crushed, and he's got a lot of talent. Maybe she could be the next big thing, whoever it might be, but somebody else brought more friends. And they will deliberately not laugh or not applaud or not give any reaction at all to someone who is very much deserves the applause. And they're actually taken away from their own experience as audience members, because I go to a comedy club. When I go to see comedy, I go there to watch the guy so I can laugh my ass off. Not even as a comedian. I try to get out of the frame of mind of even analyzing the other guy's material, which could it could be very easily, you could very easily fall into that, as well as like thinking about it in terms of a comedian, what I would do if I had that joke, or what I would do if I was in this situation. But if I'm going out to have fun. And if you're not even a comedian, you're just there in the audience to have a good time and support your friend, you should be supporting your friend by also supporting all the other comedians on the show. It just makes the whole goddamn show that much better. And then when your friend does win, it's a true victory and not this bullshit thing, because everybody knows the difference. You know the difference if you won that comedy contest because you brought the most friends, or if you won that comedy contest because you're legitimately the best comedian.
Right. That's 100% true. And I know that the problem with that too, but they get wrapped up in the money, they get wrapped up in the title, or they get wrapped up in whatever it is. And I was at a show once, this is years ago, there's a comedy contest, and there's one woman the girl that was in the contest, and she was like a hardcore feminist. And she brought her hardcore feminist friends. And she was doing material that was geared just toward those friends. So she had like 10 girls or whatever, 15 girls that were with her, that laughed their ass off at everything that she said. Nobody else laughed at her. And then when the other comics went up, they wouldn't laugh at anything they said. And, and it was like, come on, guys. You know what I mean? It's everybody can tell that you're just trying to make her be this hero of stuff that, I mean, it's, I understand it's a point of view, it's a thing, but it's got to be funny.
Right.
Funny's funny.
It has to work in terms of a comedy contest. If you actually has to be based on the merit of delivering good material, having good performance chops, being able to work on the fly. It's not just about the message. And in fact, a lot of times comedians that get up there and it's only about the message, they don't live very long. It's kind of a good way to go nowhere fast.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I've said it every time. I go, it's great to have, a point of view, and it's great to have, something that you want to say, but make it funny.
Yeah, that shit ain't going to work when you're in the middle of Michigan in the wintertime.
Right.
Performing for strangers.
Exactly. And I think maybe the only person that really gets away with can do some message stuff without the comedy part is Doug Stanhope. But that's only because the rest of his stuff is so funny. So he could be saying something that's very, deep or personal or whatever, and it won't be as funny, but you're like going, wow, that's really good stuff. That's really smart stuff. Or whatever you want to say about it. I mean, I guess there are other people that can do it, but it's just not, you have to have the jokes to back it up.
Yeah, 100%. And someone like Doug Stanhope or anybody else that you and I could name, that's somebody who's also worked a long time developing their chops and building a following of fans who are going out and they're expecting that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. He has his own audience, even though like he actually, had his mainstream success as well. Like I think he won San Francisco comedy contest. He beat Dane Cook in the San Francisco comedy contest, in the early 90s,
Yeah, for sure. Steve Sabo on the line, the caffeinated voice of reason. This Friday night, December 7th, Uptown Bar and Cafe, Crystal, Michigan. Hey, Greg, what's up? And shout out to my peeps up in Lapeer, Michigan from last Friday night. We sold out that show. DJ Greg was there, man. That was a lot of fun, dude. That was a wild and crazy crowd. Talk about chaotic. I thrive on chaos. A lot of comedians don't, but I like to go completely off the cuff with if and whenever possible. And I try to view my act like it's there, and I'm always working on it. And I like to come up with new stuff all the time. Like we were talking about earlier, the writing really intrigues me as well. That's kind of something that I've had to work on over the years. And so now it's kind of the thing that I focus on the most. But what I really, really enjoy is the in the moment, no holds barred atmosphere, which is what you get with the Grassroots Comedy Tour, because you go to these small towns, and I think it's a mistake a lot of times to try to force them into the box of what you would expect from a regular occurring A-list comedy audience that has been trained and knows what it's like. It's you're kind of the guest in their house, and you need to bring a little bit different style, which blends both worlds. And I think you do a good job of that, Steve. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
because you put on those shows.
I do. Yeah, I try to, and it's funny that you say that, because I think you worded that really, really well there when you said you're kind of a guest in their house, and because that's one of the things. There's certain comics that are great comics, but they don't do well in these type of rooms because they're used to having the perfect sound, the perfect lighting, and if somebody talks a little bit during the show, they're getting kicked out by a bouncer, and
right.
And that's not how it goes in some of these other places, is that they're skeptical of you out of the gate.
Yep.
They're inviting you into basically their hometown, their basic, their environment. And you have to, you got to play along with them. And I think that's, they like you so much more when they can see that you aren't upset by, their behavior and stuff. Cause, these people aren't necessarily trained. Some of these have never gone to a comedy club in their entire life. They've gone to that bar.
They go to that bar every Friday.
Yeah. Right. But they've never gone to a comedy club. So, I accept it. I get that. And sometimes you have to adjust your material as well, because some of these guys, so many times I've gone to places and they're like going, "Oh, we're so glad you didn't do politics, and we're so glad you didn't do this. You're so glad you didn't do this." And I'm like,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want it. That's not what you want. That's not what you're here for. If you go to a comedy club, generally people know who's going to be there. Those people, they go, "Oh, this guy does these kind of jokes. This guy does these kind of jokes." But when you're going to a small town, these are the comics they get. They can't get another comic next week or whatever. So if they want to see a comedy show, they're coming to you. So you better entertain them.
Yeah, 100%. And I've seen a lot of these guys where they expect the audience to treat them like it's an A-list club, but they don't treat themselves like an A-list club. They show up in a grungy t-shirt, ripped up pants and dirty shoes. And so they're not treating it like an A-list place, but they want the A-list treatment in return from everybody else. And one thing that I respect about what you do and what some of the, like I've got Larry Reeb coming up at the Uptown Bar in Crystal in January, and he always wears a suit. It doesn't matter where he's going. He always dresses up. He always wears the suit. He's got his look. You have that kind of too. You go with the black t-shirt and the jeans and the ball cap. It's kind of the Steve Sabo look. I go with the backwards ball cap and the blue blazer and the t-shirt underneath it with the ripped up rock star jeans. You kind of got to put some effort into your look. You got to put some effort into the vibe. You got to think of, create your set list or do whatever preparation you do. Treat it like an A-list fucking club. You never know what the hell might happen. You never know who the hell might be in that crowd that might give you a gig somewhere else, like at a corporate show. Probably not somebody that's going to discover you and put you on mainstream television and launch your career in Hollywood, but there could be someone that's considering bringing you in for their Chamber of Commerce holiday party, and you still want to put your best foot forward. Speaking of that, do you do a lot of company gigs? I did this one just this last weekend, and it went surprisingly well. I don't do a whole lot of them because I don't keep it that politically correct. They're always worried about who's going to be offended, but I did one this last week and it went awesome. Do you do a lot of company parties and corporate gigs?
I wouldn't say I do a lot, but what I've written enough material that I can be, corporate clean if I need to. I just don't love to do it. If they can be PG or more so, then I'm fine for those. I probably do about, between 12 and 20 a year. more so this time of the year. Like I've got one. I actually have one this Sunday coming up. I have one a couple days before Christmas coming up. I just did one about a week ago, and I did one about a month ago where it was one of the craziest things because I played a rock and roll club, literally like a rock and roll club, like a club that had like I think it was I don't know, one of the bigger newer bands like Red Sun Rising, whatever, was there the day before. Then I'm performing on that stage, jumped off the stage, drove in a car 7 hours to West Virginia to do a 10 a.m. brunch for a Red Hats club. All ladies that are 60, 70, 80 years old, and there's like 100 of them there, and a completely different environment, completely different type of audience. But you have to do it. I mean, so I have the ability to do it, but what I love to do, and I hate saying it. It sounds like I'm ass kissing when I say it, but I love these type of rooms. I love the grassroots type of rooms, the type of rooms that I book myself. Is the rooms where you can just do what you do and be fun with it. Just have a good time, and everybody's having a good time. There's no, not like when you go to comedy clubs are great. They're fine for whatever, but you have to do a strict 45 minutes. You got to get off the stage. They got to reset and push this audience out, push the next audience in, and it just feels too stuffy. It's just too uptight. Whereas these rooms, it's like you kick back and you can have a beer with the guy afterwards. You can have a great time.
That's what. Yeah, I like that a lot of times I insist on there being the after party as well, not just herding them out. Let's stick around for a while. Let's do a meet and greet. That's the sweet spot. Being able to go around and shake everybody's hand and hit them up on social media and do selfies. That's also when they'll come up and they'll ask you to buy extra t-shirts or CDs or DVDs or want to tell their friends about you and come to shows later on. And that's how you build a following. And it's my favorite part really is the after parties. Like I love getting on stage. I try to make that as much of a party, as much fun as possible. But then to be able to hang out with everybody afterwards is for me the sweet spot. And you don't necessarily get that in a comedy club where they herd everybody out just so they can get the next show going, which makes sense for that business model. They also cram a lot of people in like sardines. It can be an uncomfortable experience for some folks that are in there because they're sitting next to someone bumping elbows with people they don't know. It takes forever to get a fucking drink. They're $10 fucking for a bottle of Budweiser, but you go to small town, middle America, where the people like it real, they like it raw, they like it honest, they work hard, they play hard, they bring in blue collar guys like me working, and me and you, Steve Sabo, working class, road dog, journeyman comics that have lots of experience and 6 hours of material like what you were talking about earlier. You can go in there and get it done under any situation compared to some guys that are like celebrities that are on the sitcom and they've got 40 minutes that somebody else wrote and they don't know how to handle a heckler.
Right, exactly. That's exactly right.
I always say invest in quality, not celebrity. Fame is lame.
It's like you're writing greeting cards. You're speaking gold here. Gold.
Awesome, man. Hey, thanks for taking the time. I'll let you get back to your day. Steve Sabo, the caffeinated voice of reason. This Friday night, December 7th, Uptown Barn Cafe, Crystal, Michigan. I will put the show information in the description above. I tagged a few people on it, but hit up Amy Lynn or Darlene if you want tickets. It's going to be awesome. Thanks, Greg and Bud and Steve Walker and Connie and Keith and everybody here. Hit us up with some likes and some laughs and the share. Cheryl, who else is here? DJ Greg. Shout out to Hitch and Post in Lapeer, Michigan, and as well as Cahoy Pump Service for bringing me in for that company party. What I told them, I got up front, I go, I heard you guys want it squeaky clean, totally PG rated. They go, no. And I go, PG? They go, no. I go, PG-13. They go, no. I go, rated R? They go, yeah. I'm like, all right, fuck it. Here we go, rated R. And then that just set the tone for the whole rest of the set. I think that's a good way to do it. Find out right at the beginning what the audience might be into. Just ask them. You guys want me to be clean or dirty? Let them tell you. Then just take it from there.
Yeah, that's smart. That's good.
Never assume, because even the 70-year-old red hat ladies, they might want it dirty. You don't know that. There's a lot of times material that I don't think will work in front of one group works like fucking gangbusters.
Well, that's what was funny with them was that the stuff that was innuendo they loved more than even the clean stuff. But then if I took it just a step farther than that, they let me know real fast. No, we don't want it that far. I'm like, okay, gotcha.
So in that case, it wasn't about the subject matter. It was more about whether you were being implicit and clever or explicit, and
I think you're right.
You know what I'm saying? It's a style thing there. Yeah. See, that's a very good dynamic. And that's the type of thing you have to recognize. And only guys like you with 25 years experience. How long you been out there on the road?
February will be 28 years.
28 years.
Yep.
This dude knows what he's doing.
Since I started, first time on stage. I opened mic for 3 years before I, did a professional show. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. I did the same. I did lots of open mics, just fucking around, and sometimes it wasn't even a sanctioned open mic. It was they needed the event hosted, and then I went up there and just to keep the audience entertained was a smart ass on the microphone. I didn't even really take doing it seriously for like 4 or 5 years, and then it took a couple years after that to really figure out what the fuck to do because there's no roadmap. There's not a whole lot of people out there that'll tell you here's how it works. It's hard to separate the bullshit from the truth.
Yeah, the best advice I ever got, and was the worst advice I ever got at the same time.
What was that?
And they said, I would go up to other comics that were established or whatever, and I'd say, so how do you, what do you do? How do you, get paid? How do you do these things? And they said, well, when you're ready, you'll know. And I'm like, that's the worst advice ever because how do I know? And then I realized when I was ready, I did. I knew.
Yeah.
I knew exactly what I needed to do.
Yeah, 100%. Thanks, man. And guys, come see Steve. Michigan fans, friends, followers, Michigan peeps, spread the word. Steve will be at Uptown Bar and Cafe. It's just north of Lansing, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. Crystal Lake, Michigan. That's it, man. I'll be back tomorrow, 4:20 p.m. or as close as possible. Oh, and Steve Sabo's also doing Birdie's Burgers and Brews in Grettinger, Iowa next Friday, December 14th. We should do another phone call, dude. This is a lot of fun. Hey, Jessica, what's up? I'll see you Saturday. I'll be back on tomorrow. I'll plug all my dates that I got coming up. It's a big 4-day run, cross country. I'll be back tomorrow, 4:20 p.m. or as close as possible. God bless America.